Hi, everybody. This is Vandy, your librarian. And I know we've been together in a few of the library lessons, but what I'm going to do today is I'm going to put it all together. So you've had all these individual lessons from using Artstor, using Jstor, even searching Worldcat in Google Books, but it's a little bit different when you're asked to put it all together and do the research. And some of the things I'm going to show you today may be a little bit more unorthodox than what you are used to, but it is how a researcher conducts research. And I believe you'll see some things that you will feel fairly familiar with, but I'm just going to show you the entire process and how it all works together. A couple of housekeeping things. First, you will need to make sure that you have your interlibrary loan account set up already. Your SciWheel account set up already. You'll notice when we get into SciWheel that I have my Google plugin already installed and ready to go. Your Artstor registration, which you have to do on our computers, or contact your librarian and she'll help you out. But it has to be set up on our computers. That's how Artstor knows that you're one of our students. So I've already got all of those in place for me, and it makes my life a lot easier when I'm trying to navigate these systems. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen, and you can see that we are at the library's homepage. Again, I've gotten my interlibrary loan account set up. If you don't, you would go to Login, Interlibrary Loan, and you would fill out a little form here. There is, again, a lesson on that. So if you don't have that done, I would pause this and go ahead and set that up. Same thing with SciWheel. There should be lessons and instructions on setting up your SciWheel account. Another handy tip is to just go ahead and bookmark these things. Bookmark the library's homepage. Bookmark your Canvas. That would be a good idea. I also have my SciWheel account bookmarked. That it just is going to make life a little bit easier for you. So let's get started. As I did before in my Google Books Worldcat lesson, I showed you before in the Worldcat and Google Books lesson, I'm going to be doing some research on Mary Cassatt and her painting, especially Breakfast in Bed. It's one of my favorites, so I do a lot of research on her. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start in Swoop Search. And the reason I'm going to start in Swoop Search is actually because it's going to search what books we have here physically. This is especially important to note when it's a summer semester. You don't have a lot of time to wait on books to come in through interlibrary loan. So this is a good place to start. I'm going to start with the library catalog. I'm going to do any field, subject, and I'm going to put her name in two ways. Okay, so you'll notice I have it one, they're in quotes. Remember, that's how you keep a phrase together. I don't want it to look for the word Mary anywhere it can. That would be insane. But also you'll notice I have it last name, comma, first name, or first name, last name. That's to get both instances. If they're putting it in a subject or a named person, something like that, it's always going to be listed last name, comma, first. So I'm kind of catching both of those. And a big tip, guys, and I do this all the time, when I'm doing my research, I will actually open up a Word document and I will type my search strings in to that Word document so that I can just copy and paste them. One little keystroke, like if I had maybe forgotten to put my second T on there, that will throw my search off. And, as you're getting deeper into the semester, you're getting more and more tired, you've got all this stuff on you, it can just be really, really draining. So, you've got an online Word document that's got all your search terms. You can take your notes in there. Oh yeah, I need to go back to Jstor, or I'm getting this article on interlibrary loan. Whatever you need to do, that's a great thing to do. Plus, it saves you a lot of typing. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to look for this. I'm not going to put Breakfast in Bed in the search. This is going to be searching. Our book records are going to be older books. So I know from doing this that putting the title of the artwork is going to be, it's probably not going to be in the book record. So I'm not going to do that here. So I can look and see, okay, we've got this one, we've got this one. I can even click on it and look into the record itself and see what all they have in there for it. Now, again, this one was done in 1975. So that's some pretty old school cataloging from the crafting the search lesson, how we talked about, it had the little print card. So that's really all we got right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and I'm going to find this book in our collection and I'm going to look through it and see what they have. And guys, in art, you're going to be fighting this a lot. Even if it's new school cataloging, they may not have the images listed. So just so you know, but I'll show you a way around that in a minute. So I'm going to go to the stacks. I'm going to look for this call number to find this book. If we have it and it's got what I need in it, I check it out or use a scanner that we have. We have 2 free scanners here at the library. So these are the books I have. Another thing that you can do if you want to make sure you remember these books, but also you're not ready to get them right this second. You're going to come back and get them, or you're like, oh, I'll go to the library tomorrow and get them. One of the neat things that you can do is actually pin them to your account. And I especially like this with ebooks. If you see a book and it says online access, you always need to drill all the way down to make sure we actually have full text access to this book. So see, like, look, this one says, sorry, this book is not available. Okay. What I would do is I would look through here and see, what kind of subsections I can look at to see if this is maybe a book that I want. And if it is, then I will do an interlibrary loan form for it. And we'll get it from a different library for you. What's really nice about this is I can also look in it and see, I really just want this one chapter. So then I'm going to do an interlibrary loan form, but I'm going to do it just for the book chapter. I'm not going to have to wait as long. They're going to send it to me in a couple of days. So let me show you how to do that since we're doing the walkthrough here. I'm going to go back to the library homepage. I'm going to click login and I'm going to do interlibrary loan. Like I said before, I already have my account set up, so it auto logs me in. I'm going to do new request, book chapter. And all I really have to have are the things with the little red flowers. So Mary Cassatt, we're looking at page 7 to 182. And this is the title. I'm going to go back, book title. I'm going to put in 0 because I'm not willing to pay for it, and I'll hit submit request. That's all you have to do. I'm going to get it in usually 1 to 3 days, and they're going to send it to me as a PDF. I don't even have to return, bother returning the book or anything like that. So, but if we did have access to that ebook and I put it in my account, then all I have to do is come back. I'm going to put all the books I want to look at in my account. Okay. So then later on, I come back to the library homepage. I want to look at those books. I want to get those books. So all I have to do is go to Swoop Search, Advanced Search. Sign in and hit my little pin. And that's where they are. This is very handy for ebooks that we actually have access to, because then all you have to do is just go straight into the book. It's right there. Okay. So that is our library catalog. I'm not surprised that we don't have a whole lot in there, but again, it's always good to search. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go to the databases. And yes, I know a lot of you will just do a regular Swoop search and search through databases and stuff like that as well at the same time, and that's okay. I usually use it at the end of my search to see if I left a stone unturned. But the thing you've got to remember is that Swoop Search only searches about 85% of our databases, most of which are not going to be our art databases. And the databases it searches, it doesn't do a good in-depth search. It's kind of skimming the surface. So it's not, I just did Swoop Search and now I'm done. It's a lot better if you go into your databases by your subject. We're going to pick our subject databases. Okay, so here we have the top 6 art databases, and then more art databases, even more, all kinds of things that you have. But it's all like, here are all the art databases right here. The first one I'm going to go into is going to be Worldcat, because Worldcat is a catalog of libraries worldwide. So it's actually going to look for books. And the thing is if I need an entire book and we don't have access to it, then I need to do an interlibrary loan. For an interlibrary loan book, that's going to take anywhere from 3 to 10 business days to get here. I want to go ahead and get those coming in. It's kind of a time management thing. And that way they're coming in while those in 10 days, I can get some other stuff done, or I can be going into the databases that will have the full text of the articles. But like I said in the lesson on, Worldcat and Google Books, I'm also going to have a separate tab for Google Books open because I search them simultaneously because they search different. So just like we did in the Worldcat and Google Books lesson, I'm going to do my search for okay, again, I'm using the same setup. I'm going to start with these words in the subject. If she is the subject for the book, then it's primarily about her. So that's a key thing. I'm going to try and look for items that have the piece of artwork I'm looking for. And again, just like I said in the previous lessons, art research is different. And this is what makes it so difficult, is we're looking for a very specific piece. A lot of times that isn't listed in a record or even sometimes in the table of contents. So we really have to get our hands on the item itself. And then you add on top of that, most of the time, the older the piece of artwork, the more titles it has, foreign languages and spellings, all kinds of things. I've even had to go in and deal with Russian Cyrillic alphabets, looking for a piece of Russian propaganda that was done back in the 1930s for a student. And I did find the image. I think I wound up finding 3 pieces of this particular propaganda, but they were listed under the Russian title, not the American title, not the English titles. So yeah, that was fun. But anyway, getting back, I'm going to leave this as keyword, just knowing that usually, unless it's an extremely big popular piece, it's not going to be listed in the subject. I want it to look for this anywhere it can, because if there's any books that even mention this in the record, I want to see those. I am going to set my language, and this is important because if it's not set to English, you could wind up interlibrary loaning a book that you think is in English and it comes in French. I also don't limit here. I do limit my audience to not juvenile. That will take out the children's books, and any content is not fiction. Okay. And now I'm going to do a search. I didn't get a whole lot. Again, I mean, we did this one in the other lesson, and that's because I specifically told it had to have breakfast in bed in the record for the book. Now, that book there could be tons of books that have breakfast in bed in them, but if it's not the record and I put it in my search, I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to be able to see it. But I can see, for this one, I can see the table of contents. I've got an abstract. I've got named persons. and my search, I can control it a lot more. The opposite is true of Google Books. Google Books, they're not going to use a record. They're going to search the whole text of the book, and that's fantastic. But it can have its own challenges. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my artwork in Google Books. That's one of the brilliant things about Google Books is that, especially for art, I can drill in there and see if it has my artwork in it. I'm going to make sure I put her name as Mary Cassatt because that's how a name is written out in the text. So that's how I'm going to put that. I can use the quotation marks to keep my phrases together, but I cannot use the ands and ors. So I can't do Mary Cassatt or Cassatt, Mary, because Google isn't going to recognize it. And so what you're saying is that both of those phrases have to be in the search. And so I won't get any books. So I'm going to do this, and this is going to show me some other stuff. What I love about Google Books is that most of the time they will give you a preview, so you can actually go in and search inside of the book. They don't give you the whole book unless it's published before 1925 and it's outside of copyright. But this is the painting I'm looking for. So at least I know that this book talks about my painting. But I can also go in right up here at the top. It is actually doing the search for me. My rule of thumb is if one of my search terms, any of my search terms are in the title, I go ahead and take them out because they're going to be all over the place. So I'm looking here and I can see that it's specifically talked about on 2 pages. Doesn't mean that that's the only place they actually talk about this painting. It's just the full title is only on these pages. The other thing I do is I go after the table of contents. Usually I have to start at the very beginning of the book and then scroll down. It just depends on what they're going to show you for the preview. I have been noticing that sometimes they don't give you the table of contents, but that's kind of rare. But you can see, I can see chapters. I can even click on it and kind of see the page numbers. This one is not giving me page numbers. I really don't like that very much, but I can go up here and see the page numbers right here. So if I decide, yes, I really want, the chapter I'm looking for is Cassatt's Choice, then I know that when I do my interlibrary loan, I'm just going to go ahead and move this here. So when I do this, I'm just going to do new request, book chapter, and I've got all the information I need. I want Cassatt's Choice. It's page 77 to 85. Pages 77 to 85. Chapter title is Cassatt's Choice. And this is the book title. 0, submit request. That's all I got to do. I'm actually going to put this up here so they don't interlibrary loan this for me. And it's now in my outstanding requests. Yeah, I do a lot of interlibrary loans, if you can't tell. But here's my book chapter. When it comes in, they'll send me an email and they'll say, hey, your book chapter's here, your interlibrary loan is here, and it'll have a link. I'll click that link, it'll take me right here, and then I'll do view electronically received articles because I want to view my article now. And there's the PDF. Not the particular PDF I'm looking for, but that shows you what it looks like when your PDF is here. All I have to do, click on the PDF and download it. So that's how we can get them so fast and easy for you. The other thing to note is the expiration date. These will only stay in here for 30 days. So I really need to go ahead and download this. Once I download it to my computer, it stays. It's mine to keep but I can only access it in my interlibrary loan account until the 18th of September. Okay, so that's that. Now let's look at another book and see, because sometimes you think, oh, well, why not just go to Google Books all the time? Well, because I can't say Mary Cassatt has to be the subject of the book. I can't do any of that in Google. It doesn't do that type of searching. So sometimes it's like this one. Maybe they mention it once in passing, but the rest of the book is about other stuff. I don't know if it's a fiction book or a nonfiction book, and you would be amazed at what they will write historical fiction books about. I mean, we're literally just looking for the term breakfast in bed. That could be used in any different way. I mean, it could be a fictional romance book where, the maid brought her breakfast in bed. Okay, so that's that phrase. And maybe they've got a character in there named Mary Cassatt. That's that phrase. So you just never know sometimes. So also, not all of the books will give you a preview. And I know this one gives me lots of previews, but there's been a lot of times when I'm digging through things that, especially books that were published kind of prior to 2000, we get into quite a bit of books that don't give us a preview. Let me see if I can find one. Okay, so here's one. It says more editions, but I don't have a preview. So if I click on it, I'm not really going to get to see a whole lot. I don't really know a whole lot about this book. So then what I can do is I can actually go and take the title, go to Worldcat, and look it up by title. There we go. Sometimes the colons, semicolons, stuff like that will wreak havoc on the search, like you just saw. But now I can click on the title of the book and get more information on the book itself. Okay, I can see the authors, who published it. That's a National Gallery of Art. That's pretty scholarly. And what this is an exhibition catalog. These are very handy in art research because with some pieces, either they come from a private collection and they've been loaned to the museum for this exhibition, or the museum has them and they go into dark storage. Okay, think about it. An exhibit is something that's temporary. And once that exhibition is gone, there's no proof of it. So what they do is they go in, usually opening night or before the exhibition, and they take very, very good, high quality photos and prints of these pieces. A lot of times they have a lot of the information on them, especially on opening nights. They'll invite scholars to present papers on these pieces or artists. And so it's all published together as a catalog. So there is the living record of this exhibition. And sometimes that's the only place we can find images of a piece because it's in somebody's private collection. They're not letting it out again. So these can be very, very handy. But if I scroll down, sometimes I can see more information. Sometimes it'll give me all kinds, it just depends. But I do know that this is a nonfiction book. I know it's not for children. It's not a coloring book. I know all of that information. And if it's something that I'm like, yeah, I want this book, now I've got borrow from another library. Anytime you see this borrow from another library link, or sometimes it says request via interlibrary loan, if you click that, it will actually fill out the item form for you. All you have to do is scroll down, 0, and enter. And there it is. They'll email me when it comes in. That's all I have to do. So that's how I use Google Books and Worldcat, and I always search them simultaneously because if I access a book from one and it's not giving me enough information, then I'm going to use the other one, because the other one is probably going to at least have a catalog record that will show me information on it that I can at least see, get some more information about it, and vice versa. The other instance where or really the big instance of why I use it, is that in Google Scholar, depending on what search terms I'm using, sometimes I just cannot get the search narrowed enough to get the good scholarly stuff. You know, again, if the artist I was looking for was Mary Jones, and the artwork I'm looking for is Breakfast in Bed or The Park, I don't have anything else. So my search is going to be kind of all over the place, because if you really think about it, we understand that what we're looking for is an artwork or an artist, and we have that information. The computer does not. It can only do exactly what you tell it to do, which is look for those phrases. So, okay, moving on. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so we found some things in Worldcat. We found some book chapters in Google Books. So now we're going to move to a different type of database. Let me clean up this here. Okay, so the next one I'm going to go into is Jstor. For those of you who have not used Jstor before, you do have to create an account from our computers, or you can email me and we'll talk through it and I'll help you get it set up. It's really, really easy to do. But I'm going to go ahead and log in, and you do have to have an account before you use it. But oh my gosh, it has some amazing features that will make life simpler for you. Okay, so I'm logged in. I'm going to do a search. You can do an advanced search. Usually in Jstor though. Okay. This is my painting. This is where I also have some students get into trouble, because remember I said the older the piece, the more titles it has. So you saw in my title, I just put in the term breakfast. Now that could have pulled up a ton of stuff, but if they've put it in under a different title than the one you're looking at in your textbook, I have a lot of students go, well, it's not in there. It's not in there. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's in there. And we start playing with the title, and then that's where we find it, because it's going to have different names. It's crazy. But this is the piece I'm looking for. Okay, I've got all kinds of different information on it on this particular one. And there will be, you know, sometimes an artist did a couple of them, and one of them may be a slightly different. So that helps you know, oh, this is the oil on canvas, not the pastel or the watercolor version or whatever. And I can actually, what I love about Jstor is I can zoom in and it recalibrates. So it doesn't pixelate. I can actually see into it. I can see brush strokes. I mean, it just depends, but it's phenomenal. So let me zoom out. Okay. So this is the piece I'm looking for. I want this piece. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it to my group. Okay. Because I have an account, I can add the item to my group. I can create new groups if I want. You see that I have quite a few here, but I'm going to add this one to it. The other thing I can do, again, like I said, is I can zoom in, add to group, and I'm going to add the detail view. Okay, so what this does is it actually adds just the zoomed in image. So if I'm doing a presentation, then I can say, oh, well, you know, the way she did the eyebrows here. And then I can also come over here and say, okay, and then the way she did, I'm going to add to the group. I'm going to add the detailed view of this one to it as well. And that's going to be a separate one. So now I'm going to go to my group and I can see them. one of the biggest things is I can actually click export and tell it to export as a PowerPoint. What it's going to do is it's actually going to create a PowerPoint for me. It's going to get it started. It's going to put each individual image that I have in this folder on its own slide. All of the information with the piece is going to come with it in the notes section. See if I can't get this to where you can see it. Hopefully you can see this on the screen. But as you can see, I've got each individual piece. And in my notes down here, I have all the information that comes with it. And I've got my zoomed in piece, all of that. So that gives you a phenomenal start on it. Okay. And then you can just add stuff to it. Just keep adding stuff to it. Now, one of the things that so outside of Artstor, and one of the things I haven't been showing you, as I probably should have, is SciWheel. For those of you who don't know SciWheel, and I'll pull it up here. Actually, I'm going to go to it from our databases page because in your databases page, it's right here. Once you get into, oh, sorry. I need to open it in a new tab. Once you go into SciWheel the first time, you're going to click sign in here and then say, no, I'm a new user and create your free account. This will allow you to have more than 3 projects in SciWheel. And I have a lesson on this in a handout. Again, this is something that it would be very handy for you to have already set up. So I'm not going to go through there and show you how to set it up, but before you start your research, it's very handy to set up. But SciWheel is a repository for your citations. So any of these things that I'm coming across, like, okay, I'm going to go to Artstor. I'm going to do the advanced search. And I'm going to do a search in Jstor. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Jstor, Jstor actually searches differently than most of the databases. Jstor is going to search like Google Books. So it's going to do whole text searching, which is great. I know that I'm not going to put in Cassatt, Mary because I'm going to use the parenthetical name convention. I also can put in the title of my artwork and it's going to scan the articles and book chapters for the title of my artwork, bearing that we have the title correct. But Jstor will also use the wildcards, the little quotation marks, and you can use your Boolean operators. So I can do or breakfast or women or children. Okay, so if I had alternate spellings for this painting, I could put those in with the or, and it would search all of those. I don't want to do that. That's going to be huge though, because that's pretty much what she did was women and children. The other thing is I'm going to say content I can access. I'm going to do all content. There's a lot of ebooks and articles in Jstor that we don't have access to, but you know about interlibrary loan. We can get them for you. So I want to see those. One of the drawbacks to Jstor is there's no way for me to say, listen, Mary Cassatt has to be the subject of the article. And that does get a bit tricky when, it could be talking about a book review, a new showing of her painting in an exhibition, anytime that name is there, it's going to come up even in passing. So, there's pluses and minuses to everything. So we will take what we get. And you'll notice that Artstor is integrating into Jstor. I have heard that Jstor and Artstor are going to permanently merge. I don't know what that's going to look like or be, or if it's even going to happen, but just so you know. I'm going to scroll down through here. So I've got Paintings and Pastels by Mary Cassatt. You can't always go by the titles. Humanities people like turns of phrase. And so sometimes you'll get an article and you're like, that doesn't tell me anything. You really need to click on the title of the article. And one of the tricks that I use with Jstor, because they don't highlight your search terms for you, sometimes your search terms don't appear until the second or third page. Sometimes these are really small print. So what I do is I go ahead and download the article. Now this hasn't really downloaded it. All it did was get me to the PDF of the article, but then I can do Control F. I forget what it is in a Mac. I think it's Alt F or something like that. It's the command key for find. And I'm going to do, okay, and it will show me. Sometimes the highlighting's a little bit off, but hey, it's page 13 down. So I didn't have to read 13 pages to see, oh, this is where it appears. Now, again, I can't just say, oh, it only appears once. So that's the only time they talk about it and it doesn't mention anything else. So I'm not going to get this article. I know if my piece is in this article, it's going to be about it. So I do need to look around it, kind of. 90s, an excellent example, mother and child or breakfast in bed. It's interesting. So it has two titles. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my Word document where I have all my search strings, and I'm going to pop this one in there. So in the next database I go to, I'm going to put in mother and child in quotes, capital OR, breakfast in bed in quotes, because it has two titles. So again, there you go. But this looks like an article I really want. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pop it into my SciWheel. Anything that I gather for this paper or a project or presentation or whatever, I'm going to put it into my SciWheel account. That's going to make life so much easier. The other thing is I have downloaded the Chrome SciWheel extension, so it doesn't matter what I'm in. It doesn't matter if I'm in a database, a web page, or what. All I have to do is click that. I'm going to go ahead and sign into my SciWheel account. I did that right. Okay. So now I'm going, and you can see it's putting in a PDF. I can add it to a project. So if I've got a project specifically for this particular paper, I can put it in there, click add. Okay. So I'm actually in SciWheel. I'm in that part of the account. And it says fix reference metadata. Okay, so again, it's a computer. You're asking a computer to talk to another computer. It can get crazy. So get back into my SciWheel. Right now, I'm actually in the PDF for the article itself in SciWheel. So I'm going to open up my actual SciWheel account. And usually when I'm doing research, I have my SciWheel account open on my second screen. Okay. So this one, and I believe this is it. I'm going to, oh, Yep, that's it. So as you can see, the metadata did not come across correctly, and that's okay. So I'm going to click on it and do edit. And anytime I add something in, I'm just going to go ahead and edit this. Sweet. And make sure that all of my data is correct. So that's going to help me out later on down the road. 1967. 2. This is, nope, that's not it. 32 to 49, and don't like doing a stable URL. Okay. Sometimes if there's an abstract for the article, I'll put it in here. I'm going to hit save. So there's all my information. Another thing I like to do if I want to take notes on it, something I need to tell myself later, there I go. Tags, I love the tags. Huge, huge in love with tags because I can even put notes to myself in here. So one of the ones that I use a lot is ILL. So if I needed to interlibrary loan this article, I'm going to pop that tag in there. Or I can even put art. It just depends on what I want to tag it. If the PDF does not come with the article itself, you always want to download it and then upload the PDF itself. I do not trust the links. Just, it'll be broken tomorrow. Okay, so just always upload the actual PDF. Okay, and I'm actually going to go in here. Outstanding requests. What's that one that I put in here? Okay. So this is a book that I put in for an interlibrary loan. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here as well. Okay. Import references. Create reference manually. It's a book. And the book title. There we go. Okay, add. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the tag ILL, because once that book comes in, or the book chapter, the article, whatever I've had to interlibrary loan, all I have to do is then go right back to my SciWheel account, go into the folder, identify that tag, and I can easily pull it up and upload the PDF. Okay, it just makes it a lot easier for you. So we've got some Jstor articles, we've gotten some things on interlibrary loan, we've got a book chapter, we've got some other stuff. Another database we're going to go into So another database we're going to go into is going to be under more art databases, and it's Proquest Central. I really enjoy this database because it's kind of like, well, not kind of, it is searching all of the Proquest databases that we have access to. And it's fully searching them all at once. So it's a great kind of broad search, but a full broad search. So you're getting everything you need to get from these databases. Always advanced search. Again, and I'm going to put in because remember, it has two titles now that we're aware of. And instead of letting it search anywhere in this database, I'm actually going to tell it to search the document text. That just is a little bit cleaner of a search for you. Okay. So a couple of things. For this, I really want to be looking at scholarly journals and dissertations. So that cuts down a lot. I also want the language to be a language I can read. So that's English. Okay. And if I'm still having troubles, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to subject, and you always want to click more because again, it's just looking for our words. So I can say, oh yeah, I want it to include, but I don't want it to include nursing. Like there's only a couple of these that I don't want it to include. I want to kick that out. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't want to include agriculture or ancient civilizations, So that can help clean out some things that you're like, why is nursing coming up? Well, that can help clean some of it out. Deconstructing feminist art. Okay, let's look at that. I can look at the abstract and details of it. That gives me a big piece of it. I can look and see as a description. I can scroll down and look at it as well. I can also see a few things. I can look at all the references in here. And that's what I'm really going to mine is all of those references because they've done a ton of work. They've cited everything. So there may be something in there that I need to look for. But I've also got the full text. All I have to do is just download it. And the other thing I can do is I can even go back and tighten this a little bit more. I can say, okay, she has to be in the, let's say I want to do subject, all subjects and indexing. Can look for the title of the piece in the whole thing, but again, this will get it to where it's a little bit tighter. Scholarly journals, trade journals. Okay. So this talks about an exhibition, the catalog, and it tells me, it's pulling that up right there. So I can also look at the full text and see what it says. And if it's something, I may go after this exhibition catalog because now I know what exhibition it was at, what museum it was at. So I can go to Worldcat and look up that exhibition catalog. So all kinds of different things that you can do to get items or their pieces. Another thing that I like to do is use Google Scholar. And one of the things with Google Scholar is that you have to have your library links already set up. That's a huge help. So I'm going to, anytime I go into Google Scholar, you go to the, I think some people call this the hamburger, the 3 little lines in the upper left-hand corner, drop down to settings, do library links, make sure University of Texas at Tyler is checked. And again, we're going to do a Google search just like we did in Google Books because it's going to search the same. But this is searching Google Books. It's also searching now some of our databases from the back. Okay, but it's also searching other things like this one. You know, it's going to be searching other university repositories. Like we don't put our dissertations and theses into databases. We put ours into our own repository. So this will give me access to that. If I'm in the Proquest database and it says it's a dissertation, but I don't have access, I will go to Google Scholar and try to pull it up there. And there's been times I've actually been able to find it. Okay, so like this one right here, it says UT Tyler Access. I don't really have a whole lot of information on it. So what this is that this is giving me some information about it. I can get it here, or I can even, so I'm not getting the actual images. So what I could do is do an interlibrary loan to see about getting a PDF of this. But again, there's no way to say, look, Mary Cassatt has to be the subject of the article. So that's why we're getting stuff that's kind of odd, but they're mentioning it. Okay, so here's another book that we could look into. And this is bringing it up to the list of illustrations, which is awesome. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Cassatt. Breakfast in Bed, 1897. So I know it lists my piece. I'm going to see if it lists it other places. Oh, and one of the other things you can do in Google Books is instead of letting it order by relevance, I'm going to order by pages. That will also help me figure out if it's just on one page, you know, or if it's a whole chapter, or if it's, you know, scattered all the way through the book. Because if it, again, if it's just a chapter, I'm going to do an interlibrary loan for the chapter. If it's the whole book or it's 2 or 3 chapters, I'm going to have to interlibrary loan the whole book. This looks good. So this would be one that I might want if I'm going to use it. I'm going to pop it into my SciWheel account. It's going into my test page. I can add tags to it, fix, because I want to fix it, the record. Okay, now I'm going to view it in my library from SciWheel. I can already tell I'm going to have to fix this, so I'm going to edit it. And this is the chapter is Mary Cassatt, 242 to 308. Nope, it's not a web page, it's a book. Okay, I'm gonna save it. Okay, and then I can take this tag out. Okay, so let me show you, they do have a Word and a Google Docs plugin, and that's very handy. And one of the reasons why I'm so specific about, you know, you've got to make sure all the citation information is correct in here, because let me open up a Google Doc. Okay, so in your SciWheel, If you go up to tools, just like you add the Chrome extension, you can also add in the Word or the Google Docs add-on. Okay, that's huge important. Doesn't take but a minute. But as you can see in my Google Doc, I now have a SciWheel extension. So what I do is I go ahead and get it set up. Format citations and bibliography. Just a second. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it how I want it to set it up. And this is not going to be completely to Dr. Lasso or their specifications, but it will get it close. I mean, even if I put it to Vancouver, it's not going to get it completely exactly the way I want it. Okay. Okay. So that's going to set that up. Okay. And then the other thing I'm going to tell it to do, link document to the project. So I'm going to tell it, listen, all of the articles and stuff that I'm going to be citing in this paper are in this particular project. Okay, so I'm typing along Mary Cassatt painting, and I want to cite that. All I have to do now is do, so I will insert citations. Okay, and it's actually over here, it's connecting straight to that project. I can even utilize my tags. If I said, hey, this is for such and such subject, I can pop in there and just jump straight to that. But then all I have to do, if this is the one I want, I can just click Cite. And however I told it to do, that's how it's going to do. And I want to cite another one, so I'm going to cite it right here because it's still open. And it usually doesn't take this line to pop the citation in. It's just because I'm also doing Zoom and screen share, it just slows everything down. But as you can see, then when I get done with my paper, okay, I want to insert, oh no, sorry, SciWheel, format citations and bibliography. Update citations and bibliography. Make sure I'm at there. And it formats the bibliography for me. Okay, then all you have to do is go in and go, oh, that was wrong. And fix it. Okay. Again, depending on the faculty member, they may have some tweaks and stuff that you want to do. Go back and look at the formatting papers, art papers lesson, and fix whatever you need to fix in here and in your in-text citations. And that's going to be something you do a lot. As you can see, there was a Vancouver, excuse me. As you can see, there was a Vancouver style in there. One of the last journals that I submitted to wanted a modified Vancouver style. So not only did I have to go and figure out what Vancouver style was and get everything set to that, once I got it all in the paper and got it all set up to real Vancouver style, then I had to go to the journal itself and figure out how they wanted me to modify it and then make all the modifications. So, but having these tools set up like this, oh my gosh, they can make it so much easier for you. You've just got to make sure that before you start doing that, especially as you're adding the things into your SciWheel account, that you have all the bibliography information correct. And then it's just as simple as clicking buttons. As always, guys, I'm here to help you. This is my job. So if you have any questions. If you want to meet with me to discuss your topic to see kind of how we need to phrase the searches, every topic is going to have its own challenges, and that's what I'm here to do. So you can always call me, you can email me, we will set up a time, we can Zoom, we can meet in person. Most of you will wind up with my cell phone number, and you can always text me as well. Okay, so just let me know. Bye now.